You look like $1,000,000.
Always, Todd. Always. You ready? You ready to do this? It's the last night.
Whoever, the story of Hanukkah should have really been 20 nights, so we could have done this longer. I think that would have been great for us. So everyone, welcome to Hoppy Hanukkah. I'm Todd Summers,
and I'm Chad Brodsky, and we will no longer be your drinking buddies after this evening. I'm so very sad.
I'm sad. Being that it's night 8, let's open those night 8 beers.
Indeed. I'm very excited for this beer.
My beer is in a hat. Ooh.
And so is mine. And guess what? Rocking this hat right now.
Hazy Bones from Flying Fish. I'm going to get that into a glass. Let me put this on.
Nice hat, Todd.
Is this cool? I think this is a cool way to wear it, where it looks like.
On.
No, I'll get too sweaty.
Nothing left.
That was it. Remember to recycle. I'm from Vermont. I'm legally required to say that.
Look at my new glass. Decided to mix it up. Teku.
Hazy Bones from Flying Fish. So, Chad, what are we doing tonight?
All right, guys. So tonight, got someone special here. We're going to dive into the world of New England IPAs, kind of a popular beer with Kirk LaVecchia, who is the director of sales at Flying Fish Brewing Company. As you can see with this awesome can, he is the director of sales of this awesome brewery. But before we get into that, and I think we have a little bit of some housekeeping items.
There's always housekeeping. So it's the last night, which is very sad. So we imagine you're going to have tons of questions for Kirk. Those go in the Q&A. The chat is for the banter. Make sure you have attendees and panelists set for there, please. And so what we're really asking tonight, and most of you have done this every night, but stay till the end. So we're going to send you all a link to a survey. And that survey, if you complete it, it enters you in a chance to win a free Hanukkah box next year. And if you don't win, you can use the code Hanukkah with an H, not a C, 21, the number's 21, and that's 15% off for next year's Hanukkah box.
Pre-orders.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember approving that.
Showbiz, Chad. I just did what I want. 15% sounded more than fair. I'm sure if someone emails, I'd probably have done more, but we'll let you that.
Fine, we can do it. All right, let's get into Kirk. Kirk, welcome.
What's up,
Cheers.
fellas? How you doing?
Cheers. Hopefully you didn't get too much snow.
Teku, because I got to be part of the cool kids.
Yeah, definitely. Cheers. Cheers to everyone at home. I don't know if you got. I'm in Boston. I got over 12 plus inches of snow, so this hat's going to come in quite handy for me having to shovel later. But yeah, tell us about yourself, Kurt.
So the real brief is I've spent a long time in beer. I actually started out being a home brewer and won a contest to go and brew with Sierra Nevada out in Chico, California. And then I came back home knowing I wanted to do something in beer, became a merchandiser for a beer wholesaler, then route sales, craft sales manager, then a brand manager, and then left to become the director of sales over here at Flying Fish, which I've been here for just under 3 years.
That's awesome.
What a casual name drop to get things started. Like, yeah, I got my start on my beer by going to brew at this like little shop out west. You might have heard of it, Sierra Nevada. But how'd you win the contest?
So I'm a regional guy. You know, I'm from just outside Philadelphia. So for us, cheesesteaks are everything. And as a joke, I was the treasurer for a homebrew club, and we said, who can make like a cheesesteak beer? So I ended up making a cheesesteak beer, and it got through the finals there, and boom, bam, here we are.
Wow,
that's serious.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot more to unpack there, but I'm not going to get into it, but it's interesting.
Yeah, that we could do a whole show just on cheesecake beers.
I couldn't have written a better response for you saying how you won your way to Sierra Nevada. That's the most Philly. I love that so much. That's incredible.
we are
all right. So let's get into this beer. So we got Hazy Bones right here from Flying Fish. For people at home that don't know Flying Fish,
we are out of
tell them where they are. And
yeah, we're we're just outside Philadelphia in southern New Jersey. We've been around for 25 years, starting in 2021. So that's exciting for us to come up on our anniversary. We're kind of like the old legacy brands that's taking a big inward look at our portfolio to make new and exciting styles like this, Hazy Bones.
So the Hazy Bones. So you're the director of sales, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So how do you sell this beer to accounts? Let's say Todd owned a business.
Yeah. So
he owns a bowling alley in a seedy part of town and wants to up his game he wants to up his beer game. And you need to sell him this beer. You need to sell him this beer. What are you doing?
So I'm going to approach it from the fact that Todd really enjoys and loves beer, and I'll sell it to him on that, not like pricing or anything else. Honestly, Hazy Bones, it's the #1 best-selling new brand that launched in New Jersey this year. So I know that sounds kind of crazy, but we just came out with this beer this year. It's already our #1 best-selling product. We never had really more of that New England style IPA brand until this year, and it's eclipsed everything from every other brand, Sam Adams, Sierra, everybody in New Jersey. So in terms of rate of sale and velocity, this is our best-selling product. But the actual beer itself, hazy, juicy. We use a yeast strain called London Fog, which leaves like a really silky mouthfeel, but then also that residual haze that people are looking for. And then we get, if you want to get real geeky, when we introduce the hops, we do almost all late additions in the boil, which lends itself to more flavor, juiciness, and aroma rather than bitterness, which is what people are looking for. They want to be able to, and for you as Mr. Bowling Alley, you want them to roll a bunch more strikes and buy a bunch more beers. So that's why you want them to have something that's enjoyable and sessionable. Yeah,
I definitely do want them to bowl more. And as a bowling alley owner, and this is a question in the Q&A, but if you were in my bowling alley and you were going to order a cheesesteak, is this whiz with or without?
This is whiz wit, always whiz wit. And don't come at me with provolone or peppers. That's nonsense. It's got to be cheese whiz, plastic cheese all the way. That's authentic.
Okay, I'm into it. And so what I think is super great about this, like hazy, right? But there's the juice for me, which is always like, it's just tons of fruit there. Mm-hmm. Is that the late hops? Is that what?
Yeah, so the later you add hops, there's essential oil. So I'm also a certified cicerone, so like you can get like complex in terms of terminology, but real simplistically, there's essential oils that you don't want to burn off. They actually volatilize off if you put them in too early in the boil, and it actually will just give you bitterness. It won't give you any kind of flavor or aroma components. And even though there's no fruit in this, like you were saying, Todd, like you get a bunch of juice. That's what we want. We want it to have all that like resiny tropical fruit vibes that we're looking for, and just none of the harshness from the beer. So it makes it really smooth and drinkable as well.
That's incredible. And someone in the chat, Matthew, he said, I don't like usually IPAs, and I love this beer. And that's probably speaking to the fact that it's not super bitter if you have like an old school IPA West Coast style, right?
Yeah, I mean, dude, like Matt, thank you. I really appreciate that, because it means that our beers are more approachable to people who are maybe a little bit more squeamish about IPAs that they had that just like blasted their palates with hops, and you're like, IPAs aren't for me. And we think about that with our consumer base, that we want it to be enjoyable. We want you to have. I'm like a Lay's potato chip kind of drinker. I can't just have one. So you want something that's enjoyable multiple times over, not just like a quick little flash in the pan. Like, there's so many unique brands and unique flavors out there, but after you have one, you're kind of like, yeah, I'll never get it again. It was really good. I'm glad I had the experience. It was a lot of fun to try it, but yeah, I'm good. Moving on.
There's a question about sessionable and just how sessionable. What does sessionable mean, or what's a session? And just from this beer itself, I typically can't drink a lot of New England IPAs, but this one's actually really light and easy drinking. It's pretty crushable, and that's what the whole point of that session thing
Chad,
is.
You already basically defined it, right? By something that's typically a little bit less in alcohol, right? So like once you get over the 7% ABV, you're just ABV, like your own blood alcohol will raise pretty quickly if you have multiples in an hour. So that can reduce sessionability. Mm-hmm. The other thing is palate fatigue. Palate fatigue is very particular, and it's very hop derived or just strong flavor derived. You know, like I don't know whether or not your consumers or audience, if you guys have ever had really big either high alcohol or stouts, like really roasty flavors, some of those things can be very taxing on your palate. And it's actually really good if you're trying, like, for example, if you're doing a bottle share, which, you know, kind of if you open up everything that was in your box in one day, it would be like a bottle share because you would get to have all these unique flavors all at once. But you always kind of want to like cut and contrast. So like go from like a big flavor to like a more muted one to kind of balance things out. And we do that a lot of times in pairings in the course of how we would derive when you should drink what beer and when, even in like beer dinners and stuff.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And because one, besides the fact that like I would get tired if I'm drinking like a bunch of 11% beers, but like the sugar content and just like those huge flavors, for me, I prefer lighter foods, you know. And so it's the same way of drinking. Like I need sort of breaks in between. And so someone mentioned the can art, which I just looked down and I feel very perceptive because it only took me like 10 minutes of staring at this to realize that we've got like a Dia de los Muertos.
Sugar Skull, yeah.
So
Sugar Skull, it's got the grapefruit eyes, the pineapple, hazy bones. Like, you know, you're getting hazy. My biggest problem with a lot of craft breweries is that they have artwork on the can that's art. It's art, like legit amazing. But as a consumer, I go, what is that? And now I'm like scrolling around. I'm sorry, I don't have hours to spend circling cans. And if somebody just brings it to me and is like, dude, that's the thing you got to try, totally cool. But if I have to shop around through an art gallery to figure out if you're an IPA or a stout or a session sour, like, I'm out. So we were very cognizant of that when we made the artwork for this can. And actually, what's even cooler about the can, we did when COVID happened, we ran a contest in the summertime, and it was an adult coloring contest. So we actually printed this out as a flat lay. So like you stretched it out and took all the copy and everything off the side, and our consumers drew and filled this in however they wanted. And we actually launched a very, very small series of consumer cans that were all done by them. So it was a really cool way for them to like build their own can with label art that went out into our market, which was fun.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I want to make my own beer cans now. Like,
yeah, people were doing it. It was
beer
really,
can
really
art.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've been big. So Flying Fish has been on our Philly tour since its inception, since 2015. So you guys are like one of the mainstays. If anyone comes on the City Brew Tours Philly, you're typically going to Flying Fish. You guys have been such a great partner, and been around for so long. You've kind of said when did you guys start? You said
1996. So we're coming up on our 25 years.
That was my guess, but I was like, I want to make sure.
Subtraction's hard.
It is, especially after 8 nights of Hanukkah. So what do you think has been able to give you that expanse of most breweries are not that old, right? You guys are veterans within the craft beer. So.
Yeah, I think so first of all, thank you. I appreciate it. And a good thing about, you know, being a legacy brand is that you have a lot of name recognition, a lot of brand equity. The challenge that we were having was that we just needed to resonate with what people wanted, right? So this is what people want. They want juicy, hazy, no bitterness, tastes like juice, super easy mouthfeel, almost nothing residual on the back end so that it just makes it more drinkable. And we had to really take an inward look and change our portfolio around. So I think just listening to customers and figuring out what they want and what is important. So looking at trends, you know, New England IPA has been around for a while now, and we just introduced one to our mainstay recently. Like we're kind of late on the game, but it's our number one selling brand now. So clearly it works to just pay attention to
what the people want.
It's easy. It's easy. You just listen to your customers and give them what they want.
Amy has a question. Oh, sorry. Let me ask Amy's question, Todd, before you jump in. Amy wants to know what hops are giving that mango, tangerine, apricot, nectarine kind of flavor profiles.
It's mainly Mosaic and a touch of Amarillo. We do use Citra in there as well, but Citra is like more of grapefruit and it's like almost like a lemon, slight lemon taste.
Very cool.
But yeah, Mosaic is a very tropical forward hop.
That makes sense. And so I heard a rumor recently about Flying Fish that I need confirmation on. Were you the first brewery to have a website?
The brewery actually started online before it was actually a brewery. Our founder, Gene Mueller, was in marketing and advertising and wanted to test whether or not, and this was like way before anybody had websites for breweries.
Like the .com bubble had yet to burst.
Yeah, I mean, we have
It didn't even exist
flyingfish.com.
probably yet.
If we just started, it would probably be like Flying Fish Brewing or flyingfishbeerco.com. But we have Flying Fish. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of bait and tackle shops that are upset.
Yeah, seriously.
And yeah, it was basically just to test the market to see if people would even be receptive. And you got to think, like when we started in '96, there wasn't even like Blue Moon was barely out. So consumers were like, what are you giving me? They were used to Yingling. In our area, Yingling is really popular for like an East Coast beer. It's just like a simple amber lager. And yeah, you would try to sell Hopfish, an English IPA, or our extra pale ale, and people are like, what's a pale ale? Like we didn't even have Sierra Nevada's pale ale anywhere. I mean, our brands came out when Dogfish started, when Victory started. So all these legacy brands that are actually much larger than us, we all kind of like shared the same graduation year of starting. So
That's crazy.
And so if we're thinking of the opening portfolio, then were they trying to put their ear to like what the internet was at, like what people who were super into beer were asking for, and they were brewing those styles, or were like, we like to make these beers, we're going to make them, come buy them?
That's a great question. And honestly, it was trying to gather feedback. And the feedback back then was, and you got to remember, like put yourself in a 90s beer drinker head. If you got into like cool kid beer, you were directed to Belgians and imports. So it was like Belgian, English, German beers were pretty much everything. So if you look at our early portfolio, Abbey Double, English IPA, English Extra Pale Ale, a triple, you know, like all these things are resonating with overseas brands that, you know, like the first really cool craft beer bars were Irish pubs in the States for sure, because they always had better beer than your regular bowling alley. Sorry, Todd. Although bowling alleys have dope beer now. So
I'm curious to know what the chat is, what their first craft beer was. Yeah, well, maybe Flying Fish could have been someone's first craft beer. People at home, what was your first craft
Kirk,
beer?
what was yours?
You know what? I think it was either Sly Fox IPA or Trogue's Nugget Nectar were the first ones that really resonated with me. I had other craft beers, but those were the like ones, especially Trogue's Nugget Nectar was like, oh, dude, there's something about this beer space.
What was yours, Todd?
Switchback. I went to college in Vermont. I was definitely not 21. But
ooh, I saw somebody say Circus Boy from Magic Hat. That's a good throwback.
Yeah,
number 9 everyone had to have had number 9.
Number 9 was because that's also in Burlington, and like I think mine was Vermont Pub and Brewery. Like I went to a brew pub, and that was my first. It was in Vermont when I was in college. Crazy.
Dogfish had 75 minute.
Dude, that's a banger, Casey. Port City, dude. Lauren knows what's up. That's a delicious whip beer. I love that beer. It won a ton of gold medals too.
Yeah, we had the Golden Ale Beach Drive was another beer in the box that we talked about one of the nights.
Oh, cool.
Pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Those guys are really nice too. So big fan.
Stay tuned for if anyone's double dipping in Hanukkah and Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas might have a special
guest.
Teaser.
We're spilling the beans, Chad. We're spilling the beans.
We can't. No.
Lose lip sync ship.
Time out. Did you guys ever have cherry wheat Sam Adams?
Oh, Ryan.
Oh, yes, I have had Sam Adams cherry wheat.
Dude, my brother-in-law brought a cherry wheat to Thanksgiving, and my mind was shattered at how many memories came flooding back with Sam Adams cherry wheat. That was like one of my first like wheat beers and fruited wheat beers. I was like, whoa, this is so good. and I went back to it and I was like, the beer still holds up. It's still not a bad beer.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of tastes like Lehman's cough drops though. which like
My
little sugary sweet.
my favorite thing in the world. I would eat Ludens for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if they had any
Yeah.
nutritional value.
You're probably a Robitussin fan. So wait, so now that it's 2020, iteration of Flying Fish, there's been a ton of changes, right? And what's next? I think there was a question like, what do we see as the next beer trend that's happening within craft beer that might be in its infancy right now?
You know what, to be honest with you, I mean, smoothie ales and milkshake IPAs are kind of still a thing and still probably taking up the majority of the time. And if you don't know what either of them, milkshake IPA is an IPA like this. It's a hazy one, but it uses lactose, which is an unfermentable milk sugar. It lends itself to more body, more texture, and a little bit of sweetness in there. So that's still really popular. And then smoothie ones use actual fruit puree. Sometimes it's fermented out, some of the sugars, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes the fruit puree is added afterwards, and those seem to be really popular. I just saw somebody has a hard seltzer smoothie, and it destroys every concept of what hard seltzer should be because it's 297 calories per 12 ounce, but it's some craft brand in Michigan selling it. I just saw it the other day. But honestly, I don't know, because Brute IPA, if you never know that was like so New England IPA is from here in the East Coast, and then Brute IPA came out of California and wine country, where they were using champagne yeast to make really super dry IPAs, and people didn't want it at all. Like, it was probably the biggest flop of last year in 2019, and big brands put it in their spring seasonal and just had to burn a lot of beer because consumers didn't want it. So guess what? When you make beer that people don't want, as much as you try hard to make the next new thing, people don't care. They're going to drink what they want.
People are still putting
tombstone.
out their favorite beers right now. I just want to. There's some really like good throwbacks here, like Bell's Oberon, Old Fezziwig.
Oberon, yeah. Oh, I said we should make a Christmas beer and call it Old Fishy Wig. And I didn't know if we were going to cease and desist, but I still want to do it because it just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
There's a New Jersey shout out to Pete's Wicked Winter. I don't know.
So Pete's Wicked Ale was like the same ilk of Sierra Nevada Times, and they had a strawberry beer too that was actually quite good. And Shiner, I think, brought it back for a hot second and rebrewed their recipe not that long ago, so you could relive your Pete's Wicked Ale, which, from what I hear, was not very great, but it was everywhere because it was new.
That's super interesting. And we have a question that I think probably of all the guests that we've had or will have, you might actually be like one of the most well-suited people to answer it. So they're unbelievable local craft market. We know that, right? So how much of the US market is craft beer that's local and not like, you mentioned Blue Moon, or like there are some big companies who put on a mask and they say, and then they like put lipstick on this beer and they say this is a craft beer. So how is the market split along that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I don't have a stat off the top of my head, but I will tell you that there's a lot of craft brands that are masquerading as small, local, tiny, and that have either part equity sold out or fully sold out to other brands. I mean, a lot of people are shocked when they hear that Blue Moon is owned by Coors Light, or even, brands like Twisted Tea are owned by Sam Adams. Like, all that stuff is kind of shocking to most people because they're not in the industry. They don't know. I would say that now more than ever, local and local has changed from even I've been in beer for over a decade now. And local used to be you're in the tri-state area. So I would sell Brooklyn Brewing in South Jersey and say, yeah, they're local. I would sell Heavy Seas from Baltimore and say they're local. But now, if
the Tropicana,
almost every single they got some good beers too. They don't get nearly.
Brewers Baltimore represent.
Yeah. But the one thing to me is like almost every single town, or at least every county, has one or two breweries across the country now, because the barrier to entry is pretty low. It used to be like in the 90s, you couldn't buy like a small 1 barrel or 2 barrel system. Now they're a dime a dozen. So if you have 30 grand that you want to spend to open up a brewery and make your hobby into somewhat of a profitable hobby, you can do that now, which that wasn't even an entry point for people. So I still think people, you know, much like Etsy's successful, people like handmade or handcrafted, or the fact that you could talk to the dude Joe who brews the beer, who's right there talking. Like there's something about having a connection point with the brand rather than being like masked behind all this marketing or billboard ads or radio ads. Like all those things kind of, I don't know, it takes away some of the prestige or artisanship of craft beer.
So to that point, where do you draw the line? Like, where are you like, this isn't craft beer anymore? This is.
Well, I mean, if you use the BA is how much ownership you have from a larger brand. To me, honestly, I don't really care. It's like, it doesn't matter to me about what's craft and not craft, because honestly, life's short. Drink what you like. And if you really care about people's opinions while you're drinking your beer, like, I don't know, it really doesn't matter that much. Like, if you enjoy it, other people probably enjoyed it too, you know? So I think there definitely, I don't think as much, but there was some snobbery in craft beer for a hot second, where if you were drinking certain brands, you would be looked down upon. But now those are people who are drinking Coors Banquet. So, you know,
I think there's a difference between like the taste side of things and wanting to support small business, which is such an incredible, important part of like, especially right now. So just having the education of just knowing who is, and you can easily Google who's owned by macro breweries and not. But I think that's where people like, I'm not going to say that some of these breweries have been acquired big bad beer by any means. Like, they make incredible beer. Like, that's the reason probably why they got acquired in the first place, is because they had these beers that were so delicious that people wanted and all the time, right? So
yeah, I mean, like
can support, where is your money going to?
Yeah, I mean, like one of the most tragic cases, which was like a benefit and a curse, is Goose Island. I mean, Goose Island, we used to trade for Bourbon County Stouts and all those brands. Like, we would get super excited for them, and for people that weren't in the trading community, who wouldn't get a Bourbon County Stout from Goose Island, got really excited when they got bought, because it led to mass production and distribution of incredible brands, because they were able to increase their cellar space by, 200x, which allowed them to make a lot more beer. So, but for a lot of people, they damage the brand, they put pricing down. So, I mean, it's a question of what's important to you and how do you buy your beer? Like, do you buy it on price? Do you buy it on flavor? Do you buy it on packaging? Do you buy it on clout? Do you buy it because somebody told you to get it? Like, there's so many different reasons for why you buy beer. But remember, this is the best part about beer. It's just really fun to have when you're on your downtime. That's what's the best part,
I said it night one, it's a great way to turn drinking into a hobby, right? Like, it's.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I think what you're speaking to, Kirk, that's important is, and especially with people who are really into niche things and like and really obsess over something, there's always going to be that battle between protecting what you love that you find that you geek out about with like a smaller group of people, and then what happens when that becomes available to the world. Do you feel betrayed because it's not by the small group that you were once a part of? Or are you happy that now more people have access to what you want? And I think for me, I think what's important is that I want to make sure that I like the idea of supporting local. So I want my money going into the hands of people, especially in Vermont. It's like where I live, it's a huge part of our GDP is beer, right? So when I buy beer, I want to know that money is going to stay in Vermont, right? Like, I like the idea of that.
In Vermont, they won't even let you put big businesses in. You have to go out of your way to even get to a business that's not Vermont locally owned, and they just put them all in like this area where it's like, all right,
one
you're gonna
strip
do
mall
it just
state.
only strip mall, exactly.
Todd, let me flip it, because we just got access to Alchemist, and forever Alchemist was a holy grail, heady topper. Oh my gosh, heady topper, right? So now you can access heady topper. You've been able to do it in Philadelphia for quite some time, but now New Jersey gets pretty much once a quarter, one shot of heady and focal. What's your opinion on getting something that was super, super limited is now accessible to more markets? Like, is that a good, bad? What do you think about that?
I do like. I want more people to experience Heady Topper. Like, I think that the way I feel about Heady Topper is that like that beer has been so special. Get it to people. I think if the Alchemist sold to Anheuser-Busch, I would probably be telling you a different story about whether I wanted the world to access Heady Topper. But for now, I'm like, Kimmich, get Heady Topper to the people. You know, there's a whole story about like the ecological disturbances of Heady Topper to the Waterbury, Vermont community because it like creates so much waste. So they're trying to become zero efficiency, which is crazy. But like that's local, right? He's thinking about his business is affecting the community because there's so much waste that he's producing. And that's like so thoughtful. So he has a pass. He can sell his beer to anyone he wants.
So I'm looking at the chat and I'm just dying laughing because I agree with everybody in here. That's just like Focal's better. Yes, agreed. Focal is better. But Heady was first, you know? Like what came first? The chicken or the egg? Heady came first. So that's the OG. Yeah. Gotta respect.
New England IPA.
Mm-hmm.
So Kirk, I'm gonna throw you a curveball and then we're gonna say goodbye to you.
Go for it.
Like more of a see you later. And I think this is just a good question to ask a beer guy. How do you feel about wine? Enemy, distant cousin, good friend?
You know, I'm okay with it. I'm not as well versed in it. So to me, it's like a whole nother branch of education. Like that's how I kind of feel with beer. There's so many beer styles and avenues and everyone's different take on it that it's just like fun flavor experiences. So it's awesome to go into an avenue that I am not as familiar with and like go try a bunch of German Rieslings for a week or two and just like learn about that one specific section. And there's a great, if you're into beer, if you're into wine, there's an amazing Netflix documentary. Well, it's not by Netflix, but it was on Netflix. Somm. Dude, mind-blowing on how they, and I actually used a lot of that process for training for Cicerone and BJCP certification. So I think there's a lot of crossover there, and wine and beer play well together. The thing that doesn't play well with beer is when people prefer spirits. That's the one that really eats into it. Although canned wine has eaten into to beer segment space as well. But for me as an actual consumer, I enjoy it. I just drink beer more.
Chad, wine for you, yay or nay?
I was just thinking, I think more people that prefer beer more are more likely to drink wine. First, people that are really into wine will not go to beer. They kind of see it as like wine. People that love wine do not see beer in the same artisan category as a beer drinker who knows what they're drinking, is educated in the different like ingredients that went into their beer, going to appreciate a Riesling or a Malbec or some other wine. So like I go both ways in that regard, but I think it's harder for us, especially on tours, like giving tours. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to introduce people to craft beer and educate them through that process. And we always succeed in getting the wine drinker to find, oh, well, here's a Flemish sour red that kind of that has similar acidity as a lighter like Pinot Noir or something like that. But we kind of can get that to happen, but it's kind of, when I used to run tours, that'd be like my challenge. I'd be like, all right, I got a wine drinker on this brew tour. How am I gonna get them to
flip them? How
can I convert them? And
yeah, I think, Chad, dude, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's next to impossible. You can get people to drink seltzers or fruited beers or sours, as you alluded, but I remember Blue Moon, when I worked at the wholesaler, they came out with like this wine series, and it was beers that were supposed to mimic wine. Wine drinkers want no part of it. They're just going to buy wine. Why are they going to buy beer that tastes like wine? They're just going to buy wine. Like, so that was a huge swing and a miss by Blue Moon.
So Kirk, this has been, I think the three of us could probably talk shop on beer until next Hanukkah. We have like we said, our audience, people are all over the place. How can people get more Flying Fish beer? What do you recommend? What's the easiest way? Let's say you have people in Illinois or California.
Or Boston specifically.
Yeah, so you have a couple of avenues. We do a brewery direct program with Total Wine and More. So Total Wine and More, you can access our beer pretty much through most states. The other one is we do work with beer clubs like Tavor. So if you go on to their website, you can buy direct from them as well. So there's a couple of different avenues. We're only in 5 states: New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and West Virginia. So until then, yeah, Total Wine or beer clubs online.
That's great. Kirk, this has been a blast. Thank you very much for joining us. Chad and I have a little bit of final words for the crew. So we're going to say goodbye to Kirk.
Kirk,
See you guys.
thanks so much, man.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. And you guys
This is
enjoy
great.
the last of your
Cheers.
crazy nights.
Appreciate it.
Take it easy. All right.
There we go. So if we had the rights to closing time, I think we'd be playing it right now.
I think so too. Like I said last night, I'm gonna keep showing up. I mean, I don't know if other people are gonna be doing this. I know you're like, I don't know what you're doing tomorrow night. Maybe we just kind of like throw in the chat a beer and then people just keep going. But this has been awesome.
It's been incredible. So much fun. So final little bit, like our last thing, I think we have to let people know how they can hang out with us vis-a-vis the company via City Brew Tours in the future.
So, so first, when COVID ends, you have to come on a tour. So we run tours in 11 cities, 11 now, 11 or 12 different cities. So
12.
If you go to our website, citybrewtours.com, you can see all the cities that we operate in. We also have gift cards now too. So you can buy a gift card for a City Brew Tour in any of our cities and use it in any of our cities. So that's the first thing. But we also have other products too, because obviously we're not running tours right now, unfortunately. Wish we could. Todd misses selling them. I miss selling them. I miss running them. And so, but we create these virtual experiences similar to our beer a day, but we have our beer and cheese experience. So if you kind of like the idea of talking about beer and food, we do a whole beer and cheese pairing experience where we will send beer, cheese, chocolate, and then jump on a Zoom call and do a really fun experience. We also have a live homebrew experience where if you at all liked anything that we talked about and you want to learn more about how beer is made, we will ship you a kit and then you will get one of our expert beer guys to actually teach you step by step with a bunch of other random people, because obviously social lubrication, a bunch of other people how to brew beer. And it is so fun. It's probably the most fun thing you can do behind a computer. All right, Todd.
And we've set it up in a way that 2.5 hours with us. If you did it on your own, you'd be there all day. You'd be like just covered in grain. Another thing, there's a lot of people who are like, City Brew Tours comes to Chicago. City Brew Tours comes to Green Bay, Wisconsin. City Brew Tours comes here. Why don't you bring City Brew Tours there yourself? Start a franchise. We'll get you set up right in your city. If you know anyone who wants to start a franchise, we're open. We can do that. And so we have some thank yous, Chad. Who should we start with?
Oh, wait, we also have coupons. There's coupons.
Oh, remiss.
Remember those 2 products that we were talking about? I'm not going to show you but there you go. Got some discounts for you.
So, Chad, who should we thank first?
We got a lot of thank yous. And
so many.
You threw them to me like I'm supposed to remember everyone that we need to thank. But we need to, I'm gonna look. Is that okay? Just because like there's so many people that helped us. All the beer, we worked with so many different breweries, 8 different breweries. We worked with the Old Town Brewing. Let's order. I think this is order, maybe not.
Order
Schmaltz.
Yep.
Brewing, Exhibit A, Port City, DC Brow, Strange Roots, Goodwater, Flying Fish. They've been so incredible to work with to get the beer to you guys. And it's really important just to know, like, breweries are struggling right now. I don't know if you're familiar, but the brewing industry has been hit extremely hard. And they've seen essentially their revenue decimated because all of their bar sales has just disappeared, as well as their tasting room sales disappeared. So they only can do that to go and the store. So really, 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 really important to be supporting your local breweries. Help them get through this time. It's a crazy one. Todd, I think there's other people, right? Who else do we have to thank?
An aside, I have to say something about DC Brow. There was a can of DC Brow that was drank on the floor of Congress today. Google that. It's just incredible coincidence. We have to thank our guests. So we had Matthew Steinberg from Exhibit A, Andrew Smith from, like, I think Hollywood he's in now writing scripts, Bert Mooney from Strange Roots, Kirk Lavecchia from Flying Fish. We had Barry, the horrible dreidel player, was here. We also had a sentient dreidel who was here, but we need to thank all those people for taking time out of their very, very busy day to talk to all of us. The craft community sticks together. Everyone, when we asked them if they wanted to join us, they were just like, yeah, tell me when and send me a link. It was
we also have our angel, very, very important. Kate, I think we need to see the.
Can you take a bow or something?
Can you bow? Can you bless us with your presence, please?
Hey guys, I'm here.
We don't see you though.
You want to see me?
We want you to bow.
Okay.
Everyone just knows this beautiful voice, but they don't know the woman behind the voice.
All right, guys. We got a foot of snow today, so forgive me, but I'm here.
You did it.
We did it. It was so nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Kate, for being amazing and being our moderator.
Happy to be here. I do exist. Yes, guys.
And lastly, in the chat, I'm in the chat. We're putting a link to a survey that would be tremendously helpful. Oh, we did it already. Todd, you're so
doing it. I'm just doing it over and over again. It's the same link.
Yeah, so we have a survey that would be tremendously helpful for you to please fill out. This is going to help us build content for future products as well as obviously next year. Like Todd said, if you fill out the survey, you get entered to win a free brew tour, not a free brew tour, a free Hanukkah box. So for next year, for 2021, and we're already going to start playing that soon. Also, thank you to all of you guys for participating. This would be so boring if we didn't have you guys at home in the chat, joining us for the past 7 nights, celebrating Hanukkah with us, lighting the candles. We're a small business. We appreciate it so immensely. And it's just been so fun to drink with you guys these past 7 nights.
Olive agrees. She barked in the background to voice her support. So Chad, I think this is until next year, until we do Hoppy Hanukkah version 2 next year.
I think so. It's going to be sad not seeing you for a whole year.
Chad, we'll see each other tomorrow, but for everyone else, we'll see you in a year. So drink local, support your local breweries. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, JCC, also for buying a bunch of boxes in Chicago. You guys are awesome too. Want to give that shout out. And thanks to just my family who have been, and friends who have been watching and helping me participate. You guys are awesome as well. So thanks everyone. Happy Hanukkah. You guys are awesome. Happy New Year. See you in 2021.
See you then. Bye.